Welcome to another fabulous episode of Five Lemons Laughing. We're so glad that you joined us today. Happy Easter. Happy Easter is this weekend if you celebrate that. And today we're celebrating Jesus's resurrection. And if he can do it, we have the power to rise too. Again and again and again. Like spring wakes up the earth, we can awaken to a new version of ourselves. Every time we choose love over fear, forgiveness over resentment, unity over separation, we are experiencing our own personal resurrection. Let that sink in for a moment. Today, we're going to talk about a soulful reboot. So let's all rise together.
That's beautiful, Amanda. And just as you said, the resurrection, I know most of us think about that as it relates to Easter and Jesus Christ who died and resurrected. But the resurrection is actually about all of us. It's about the awakening process, not about waiting for a future event to happen, but to awaken as a way of returning to love. We were created from love. So the resurrection is us walking ourselves back to love. So we all will experience resurrection. So what comes to mind, Lemonettes, when you think about the resurrection?
The first thing that comes to my mind is like all to be in that space of resurrecting, of renewal. The first thing that comes to my mind is what's all the trash that I have to leave behind to be in that vibration? That's the first thing. Like specifically for me, I would have to leave behind thinking people are getting life wrong. Thinking like my way is the best and they're wrong. That's a big one that I have to leave behind.
Was that a form of resistance for you?
It's not that I'm resisting it. It's just that it's so entrenched in my mind. Like I have to remember it over and over and over and over again, right? Like, so judging somebody for doing their life differently. Like, so what if someone wants to sleep all day, right? That's none of my business, right? That's the path that they're choosing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So it's more of a mind training to let go of thinking anybody is getting life wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think another huge part of that is if I don't think anybody else is getting their life wrong, that means that I don't think I'm getting my life wrong, which is huge because then I stop judging myself. Then I have unconditional love for myself. So it feeds off of each other.
Thinking we might need to bridge the gap a little between resurrection and what you just said. So for the average person, maybe they're thinking the resurrection has to do with how do we go from maybe death, right? So how do we go from thinking about death and being a spirit to what you just said about judgment thoughts?
Wow, let's just jump into the deep end. Thank you for the zero warning on that one.
You can do it, Amanda.
Oh my God. Okay.
You can do it, Amanda.
Okay. I'm just pausing here because this is a big question. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, like to consciously remind myself to be in my loving heart, to go back to no matter what I say, like I'm not going to get this wrong. It reflects where I am now, just like we're all doing the best we can. So repeat the question.
So how do we go from thinking about death and resurrection to judgment thoughts? And how does it relate?
Yeah. So death, the physical act of dying, is different than me tapping into my eternal whole self. So as I let go of judging anything, judging wrongness, judging I am able to tap into that wholeness, to tap into my unity consciousness. And that allows my soul, my spirit, my being to be who I am. It's one way to go about to tap into my true, with a capital T, self. And releasing judgments is one step to get there for me. Follow-up question?
No, that was good. That was good. Because it helped me to kind of think about how I would say it in reference to that as well. Yeah, so the resurrection is that you're back to whole spirit self. And so you're releasing judgments allows you to go back there. So resurrection for all of us means that the call on our life is that our soul will rise again. So to be whole and to be spirit. And your way of getting there is releasing judgments, just the same as forgiveness or making loving choices, right? So the Christ story represents Christ being a body and letting go of the body to be resurrected in spirit and returning to earth. So
yeah, I think Jesus demonstrated his power over the body and his ability to transcend the body, and in a very extreme way, because we like really dramatic, extreme examples as humans who are addicted to drama. But it says in A Course in Miracles that the crucifixion was the last useless journey the sonship need take, and that it represents release from fear to anyone who understands it. So it's an extreme example that we don't have to follow in those footsteps. Like, we don't have to be crucified and lay the body aside and then rise up into some glorious ceremony up into the heavens. Like, it doesn't have to be so dramatic and showy for us. And it's just the whole point of what Jesus was demonstrating through that experience, I think, is just that we are not a body and that we can transcend the body just like he did. And we can do it in these ways that Amanda is talking about, of just making these little choices to choose love and to remember our truth day by day, moment by moment. It can be these little micro adjustments. It doesn't have to be this big grand gesture, grand finale type of an event like Easter represents.
So what would be an example of taking this resurrection concept into our everyday life?
Well, I have a great example.
Ooh, do tell, Penny.
Yeah. So I was visiting my family back in North Dakota over the weekend. And there are some times when it's hard to be around some of my family members. And I chose love instead of judgment and criticism and thinking whatever I think about them and myself, because I think about it myself too. And I really chose to rise above all of that noise, all of that illusion, all of that judgments, fear. I really decided to choose love for almost all the trip. So I think that's a real big step forward in my spiritual journey, because it wasn't, and I was there to celebrate my sister's wedding anniversary. So it wasn't about me either. And I didn't make it about me. And I started to, I have to tell you, I started to, but it was just for like a minute. And I said, no, Penny, no, let's not do that this time. Let's really, truly rise above. And so I really feel like I did that. And we had a beautiful time together. It was fun. We laughed a lot. We reminisced. We made fun of each other every now and then, but it was good fun. It wasn't like negative, like I'm going to be pissed off at you fun. So it was just really wonderful. So I think that's a great example.
It is a great example. So would you say that you had a resurrection experience in regard to your family dynamics?
Yeah. So a resurrection to me, and what I've been studying in A Course in Miracles, is just a change in mindset. It's letting go of the ego mindset and choosing to come from a loving mindset. And so letting go of ego is the death that I'm doing. Guillotine that ego right out of there, please. And so then the resurrection is to choose the loving way versus the fear-based, judgmental, critical, not so nice way. So yeah, I would say I was rising above, and the resurrection is about rising. And so I rose. I hope I can stay there.
I love that.
Let's try something on for size. So it sounds like there's probably, because I know if it's in my mind, then it's probably in some of our listeners' minds, that we can think of resurrections in two different ways. There is the ultimate resurrection, because if we are all one and there is no time, then we all will resurrect all at the same time, right? And then what you just explained, and I think also what Amanda was explaining, is the resurrection of the ego within each individual self in terms of what you're doing to rise above, as you explained it, Penny.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that makes sense.
That does make sense. And like, how do we get to that whole like humanity resurrection experience? It comes from resurrecting family relationships. It comes from, having that rise energy. So we have to practice it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It also comes from letting go of attachment to our personality self. And I have been realizing more and more and more recently, because when I first learned about this and like how, we will just keep reincarnating into different bodies and different personalities until we have this awakening resurrection experience. But like, I used to think, no way, I don't want to. I want to be done after this life. Like, get her done. And like more and more over the past few weeks, I've been realizing like, I am still very much enmeshed in and attached to this experience. It is like, I have awareness and like a knowing that it is just like basically a video game, and I'm enjoying being in the game. Like, we don't play games because like we play video games because there is challenge involved, or we play, whatever game. If they didn't have any challenge, then we wouldn't play them. And so there is some part of me that still enjoys and like is having fun in this body, in this personality, playing this game of life. And there is some part of me who has not been willing to let that go yet. And that attachment is ultimately what binds us and keeps us from experiencing that resurrection. And it took a great deal of humility to get to the point where I was willing to acknowledge that is true for me right now.
Yeah. Attachment and resistance, right, Morgan? I mean, when I'm attached, I'm resistant to something else. So I can totally relate to what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And how we overcome that, I don't know. But I think maybe the first step is acknowledging that there is some part of us that wants to be here, or we wouldn't be here.
Well, and you asked, how do we get beyond that? I think it's everything that we're doing as a group. And there's many people around the world that are doing the work right along with us. And soon there'll be that tipping point where so many people will be doing this work, remembering to do their prayer and meditation and connect to their higher power, that it will just benefit us all, and we'll all become enlightened beings.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I love that you said that, Penny. I was just listening to something talking about that tipping point, and everybody is different. It has a different path, just like I was saying earlier. Everyone, because my friend Lisa, who I ride with, like we kind of sometimes we have this conversation because we were talking about like my word for this year is wholeness. So it started a conversation about that. And she doesn't describe it that way, but that woman lives in the present moment all the time. That woman exudes love and compassion. And right. So without her like being on the path that I'm on, or that we're on, that the five that are Limonettes and our listeners are walking this particular path, she is getting her done. Right. So everyone's path is a little bit different, but at the end of the day, it is about being present. It's about that cultivating that love experience.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
You said that, Amanda. Yeah, because the same goes for religion. There's so many ways that people follow, but there's it's all pointing in the same direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what is coming to my mind around this topic is in one of Byron Katie's books, she talks about bowing to a grain of sand. Have y'all heard this story before? And so someone says, well, why would you bow in reverence to a grain of sand? And this is her answer. I think it's so beautiful. The grain of sand gives itself entirely. And you can honestly like sub in Jesus, because I feel like this is how he lived. Just by my guess. Anyway, for the grain of sand, you can sub in Jesus. But the grain of sand gives of itself entirely, even though I may be totally unaware of it. It waits for the opportunity to show me itself and how it exists through me. It is patient, solid in its purpose, unchanging in its present identity. It doesn't pretend. It doesn't mind if I step on it, honor it, praise it, or belittle it. It remains what it is, without disguise or deceit. It is perfectly allowing, doesn't resist the name I give it, lets itself be whatever I call it. Who of right mind wouldn't bow to such a consciousness? I just think that's so beautiful. It goes on and it's all beautiful, but I think that's enough. I just think that is like the resurrection energy. Like that's the goal, really, that's that defenselessness that A Course in Miracles talks about. That's like seeing past people's appearances in their ego body form to their holiness beyond. Like it's all of it.
Thank you for sharing that, Morgan.
Yeah. My ego is going, I'm not letting anybody step on me.
Or call you whatever they want to call you.
Or call me whatever they want to call me. That doesn't bother me as much. But I'm not letting anybody step on me.
I have a little zinger or little different idea. What if we're already living the resurrection? What if we, like for me, like Course in Miracles, we're already one. We're already one, or living essentially, we're already these beautiful light beings, but we think we are the body. We think we're on this earth. We think we're doing this video game. And what if Jesus was really showing us that we're already in heaven on earth? We're already one. We're already spirit. And that he just shed this life, this body, to show us that we're all actually already there. And that, like, these things you're saying, like everything we're attached to on this earth just keeps us earthly and attached. Mm-hmm. I just said the same words, but like it keeps us locked in this image of who we are, thinking that we're something that we're not. And I think that's why when you don't judge, how good that feels. Like it's almost like we're realizing that we are actually already this beautiful one spirit, or we're love, and that's already love everywhere. And we're just a little distracted. Mm-hmm. And that Jesus did his whole life, and to show us that this really isn't, we really aren't these bodies. And I'm not talking like one versus the other. I just think like we're having this experience, mm-hmm. but we can decide every day and every decision if we choose love, if we realize we're actually already the resurrection, or we're going to choose to be separate from our neighbor, separate from the ones we love, separate from this one love. Mm-hmm. I just see it a little differently than like we're out here hammering this life away, and then we get to like go into some cave and have bodies that rise up. You know what I mean? Like, I think that,
you're sharing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Great love.
No, I was going to say I don't think that you're saying anything different. I think you're right. It's, if there is no time, then it can't be different, right? It's the same, because there's no such thing as time. And our human capacity, that's the only thing that makes us human. It's time, right? That's the only difference. So in the format that we're discussing this, we're having a human discussion with other humans. Yeah. So, but in reality, you're absolutely right that we are already resurrected. It's already happened.
Mm-hmm. And what it makes me think of is the the wave and the particle from, the parallel universes of self book that we're reading. So in quantum physics, energy appears as a wave sometimes and as a particle sometimes. And it is in wave form until something is observed. Mm-hmm. And once it is observed, it condenses into matter. And that's when it appears as the particle. And all the other possibilities are filtered out from our awareness. So what you're talking about makes me think like we are filtering out from our awareness this resurrection that we already have available to us. We already are it. We already are experiencing it. But because our point of focus and what we have chosen to observe to the exclusion of all these myriad other possibilities and potentialities, we're not aware of it in our present reality experience. It's so fascinating. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well put. Mm-hmm.
And I love this.
You're muted, Penny. I'm sorry, Amanda. Penny was.
I thought I was going to sneeze, so I didn't want to stay. Go ahead, Amanda.
And I love that we're all saying the same thing in different ways, because that's who we are. I can tell that each of us are speaking to different people who are listening to this. So, when Melissa just said it, I lit up a little bit. I'm like, yes, that's it. Exactly. When Morgan was speaking, I got a little bit lost in the sauce, but I know that she was saying the same thing that Melissa was saying, that Penny was saying, that's Drusilla. So I'm so happy that we are expressing the same thing in so many different ways, because we're all such individual people. And I want to read that book, even though it sounds like a little complicated.
It's not the way he speaks. It's very digestible. I think you will enjoy it.
What was the name of that book again?
Parallel Universes of Self.
Ooh, juicy.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm. So I had a question. So very early on, when Drusilla first started introducing this topic, she said that the resurrection is us walking ourselves back to love. And then just now, Morgan sharing, and everybody's agreeing, we are already resurrected. So how do we reconcile that?
I think. Sorry, go ahead, Drusilla.
No, I was just going to say it's remembering that we are loved, remembering that we're already resurrected, remembering that we are still whole and perfect. So it's just a remembering. Maybe that word is a better use in this scenario.
So instead of saying we are already resurrected, we say we are remembering that we are already resurrected, or what?
We're remembering that we're whole. Like the resurrection is the in between. It's the action, right? So it's a process of something, but without time, there is no process.
Okay. Yeah. And that'd be
And I think another part of it is just having open-mindedness, because when we have that narrow point of focus and we filter out all the possibilities, then that's when you need the processes to peel back the layers. But if we come with non-judgment, then there's nothing to forgive. And if we can show up with open-mindedness, then all potentialities and possibilities are within our view, within our awareness. And so it's peeling back the blocks to love.
Yeah, I'm getting it, Morgan.
Time again. Yeah. And that quote comes back to me: when you believe more in what you don't see than what you do see, then you will see what you don't see and you won't see what you do see. So that's the way.
I love that quote from Michael Beckwith.
And what if what if it's not an either or?
Right.
What if it's an and? So we're not here on this earth and then we will go be someplace else resurrected. What if we're already resurrected and, like Morgan's example, and we're playing the video game? And so, and you said walking back. I mean, there's walking to resurrection. That would be point A to point B. And there is walking back. That's point A back to point A, I think. So, or that we were in B, we went to A and we're back to B. So, I think that it's an and.
Or it's a 0 point and we're walking nowhere. We're just coming back to the point of infinity.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
But that's the real answer you were looking for, Penny. We're going nowhere. Okay.
Yeah. I think it goes back to what Amanda was saying in the beginning, that when she chooses to judge, She locks in this form. Like she's not living in her resurrection or in her love, oneness. She's separate, and that's an illusion. That is just her making that choice at this point to not accept exactly how life is showing itself.
That's
or
beautiful.
how she's chosen to show it. So when I think, so going back to like the Jesus parable, like he could have like fought and punched and like tried not to be hung on the cross and, you know, tried to punch people out as he was going in the cave. Or I guess he was dead, or, you know, like, or he, all that stuff. Right. So he, it was just willing to be, that example.
Yeah. He surrendered.
Like the grain of sand.
Mm-hmm.
And we can do that.
We can do that, but we don't have to. We don't have to be a martyr, right? Because Jesus did that. No. We're not talking about martyrdom, right? Mm-hmm. And that's not coming from a place of ego. Like, you know, I was being funny earlier, like nobody's going to walk on me, but it's respecting myself and this life is different than being a martyr, because martyrdom is ego. Right? Yeah. Look at me. Look what I'm doing. Look what I'm proving.
Well, that's your defenselessness. So that's where the beauty is.
Mm-hmm. Melissa dropping the truth bombs today. I love it.
I love it too.
I love it too.
Mm-hmm. So simple, right?
I'm just reviewing what you guys had already said. Like it's a minute to minute choice. You don't have to wait for somebody to hang you on the cross and then bust your way out of the freaking cave.
Well, he did it, so we don't have to.
True. Oh,
that's the story goes.
Yeah. That's how the story goes.
Yeah.
But it is a minute by minute choice. Like you said, Penny, choice of love every single minute.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So maybe the question is, where are we choosing crucifixion for ourselves instead of that resurrection?
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And my example from the beginning, my crucifixion was thinking that I'm better than somebody else. Right? Comparing someone else. I am better than. That would be me. Mm-hmm. Part of my crucifixion.
Mm-hmm. I know more.
Mm-hmm.
I know what's right. Mm-hmm. And I love, I think for me that the epitome of that is what I've heard before. When you think you have to be right, there's always going to be someone that's wrong. Mm-hmm. And that's not that's not love. That's not a loving thing for me.
No. Wow. Covered a lot of ground today.
This is some next level stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So many ahas for me. What's your biggest takeaway, Lemonettes, from this episode today?
The biggest tingle that I got was when I know, right?
Ooh. I love that. I said tinkle at first, but you said tingle.
Tingle? That's my hillbilly is coming out.
Okay.
Tingle.
Oh my gosh. I like that though. Tingle.
Yeah. It was like we are already resurrected. That has already happened. Yeah.
Yeah. I have to agree too, Amanda. And then we have it's choice to stay resurrected. It's a choice.
Let's hear your post-its.
Okay. So I just loved when Drusilla said this at the beginning. Resurrection is us walking ourselves back to love, or walking. Let's see, what did you say? It was A to B and then B to A. So walking towards love, walking back to love. It's all of them, right?
All of it. That's what you said.
And then the next one that I really liked was let's rise together. Let's just do this all. Let's do it, right? And, we're already resurrected. That was a little mind bending for me. That's why I asked the question. And we're we are at the 0 point. So there's no place we have to go, which again, blows up a lot of my false blocks to love or my false beliefs and blocks to love. And then it's a minute by minute choice. We don't have to wait. We don't have to wait. Mm-hmm. It can be right this moment. You can choose love. You can choose love. You can choose love. Yeah. Okay, ladies. So, and gentlemen that are listening to us, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks so much for joining us in this episode. If it resonated with you, we would love it if you would leave comments about this episode on any of the platforms that you can listen to us on. And if you could pass it on to anybody that you think would also enjoy and get some value out of this episode, that would be really great, because we want to reach as many amazing people like you as we can. And if you're looking for more ways to deepen your spiritual practices, you can go to our website, 5lemonslaughing.com, 5FIVE, and you can click on our squeeze, and there you'll find a little gift that we've left for you. It's we've curated a bunch of really great free tools and guided meditations and journaling exercises there. And so go check that out. And we just want you to be able to squeeze out as much love into your life as you possibly can. And so go there and check it out. And so then to wrap this episode up, so this Easter season, or any time we feel ready for a soulful reboot, we can ask ourselves, what part of me is ready to rise? What fear am I ready to let go of? What love am I willing to step into today? Because as A Course in Miracles reminds us, resurrection isn't just an event, it's a choice, a return to who we really are. So thanks so much for listening today, and we will all see you next week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.